The courtroom pulsed with tension. Above the low murmur of voices, the air conditioner hummed like a nervous drumbeat. Journalists scribbled furiously, photographers clicked discreetly from behind long lenses, and executives shifted in their tailored suits, whispering behind clenched jaws. At the center of it all stood Tobi Oladele, tall, resolute, composed. But behind his calm eyes burned a storm. This wasn't just any courtroom, it was a United States federal courthouse in San Jose, California. And today, the truth would fight for its voice. On the opposite side sat Dr. Klaus Weber, his former mentor turned nemesis. The man's silver hair and stiff posture gave him a presence of cold authority. Once the brilliant German professor who helped shape Tobi's career, Klaus now sought to steal the company they had once dreamed up on napkins in a Munich cafe. Choose Dynamics, Inc. versus Klaus Weber, the clerk read. Allegation of intellectual property theft, corporate sabotage, and breach of fiduciary duty. Gasps rippled through the room. Tobi's legal counsel, a calm but sharp attorney named Gloria Mensa, stood. Your Honor, we intend to prove that Dr. Weber deliberately attempted to falsify patent records and claim ownership of TOS Dynamics core engine design, a system built solely on the ingenuity, sweat, and resilience of my client. Judge Reynolds leaned forward. This is not just a case about ownership, it's about integrity. Let's begin. As Klaus's smirk flickered across the courtroom, Tobi's mind slipped away from the sterile walls, the flashing cameras, the million-dollar consequences, back to where it all began, back to the soil that forged him. The peaceful hum of a distant village rose in his memory, shattered by the raw cries of labor and the sharp gasp of a newborn's first breath. It was a radiant Friday morning in 1994, in a small town called Omu-Aran, deep in Kwara State, Nigeria. The air hung thick with heat. Palm trees swayed gently, carrying the murmured prayers of neighbors through the rustling breeze. Inside a modest clay-walled room in the Oladele family compound, Adetutu screamed, her body trembling, gripped by pain and driven by faith as she gave one final push. "Aye-oh!" cried Mama Ronke, the local midwife. "He is here, a boy!" She held up the baby, slippery and red, his tiny chest fluttering rapidly. The room erupted in cautious joy as the boy let out his first cry. But something was off. The cry didn't last. The baby gasped, then paused. His chest pulled in awkwardly, sharply, shallowly, like someone snatching for air through a straw. Mama Ronke's eyes narrowed. "Wait, hold him still." She placed her ear near his mouth. The baby's nostrils flared, his lips quivered. The cry came again, short, rattled, then silence. His breaths were loud, wheezy, struggling. Adetutu, exhausted and barely conscious, opened her eyes. "Is he okay?" The midwife hesitated. "He is breathing." But something is not right. She quickly wrapped the baby and rubbed his back with firm, practiced hands. A raspy cough escaped the infant's lips, then another strained breath. The baby clung to life with tiny fists and fierce lungs that, despite their weakness, refused to give up. Adetutu held him close, her tears flowing, partly from relief, partly from fear. "I will name him Tobiloba," she said, "because whatever this child faces, he will find reasons to be grateful." Outside, the village went about its usual rhythm, bargaining in the market, calls to prayer, the crowing of roosters. But in that small room, destiny had stirred. A storm had been born. one that wheezed, gasped, and fought its way into the world. A storm named Tobi Oladele. He was born with a chronic respiratory condition, the kind that stifled laughter, silenced joy, and shortened childhood. Tobi couldn't play like other kids. Every little sprint was a mountain, every breath a miracle. His lungs were weak, but his will was strong. From the moment he could speak, Tobi lived between hospital visits, herbal treatments, and late-night prayers, whispered by his mother and grandmother. Their home smelled of garlic and moringa, ancient herbs that became his daily nourishment. Tobi was the first son of a polygamous family, 7 children in all, 2 from another wife. He bore the weight of that responsibility, even as his own chest betrayed him. His father, Baba Oladele, had not gone far in academics, but he was a servant to the Olomu, king of Omu-Aran, a position that exposed him to men of influence, education, and vision. He served the palace with loyalty, but he always dreamed that his son would rise far above the limitations he faced. "I may wear slippers into the palace, but one day my son will wear shoes into the world," he once told a fellow palace worker. Even without a degree, Baba Oladele saw the power of education in his dealings with traders, lawyers, and government envoys. He spoke of it often and made sure his children went to school, especially the first son, Tobi. But life had other plans. When Tobi was 12 years old, his father died in a sudden road accident returning from a palace errand. No pension, no major compensation. The pillar of the family was gone. His mother, now a widow, was left to raise 5 children, including one whose lungs could give out at any moment. The family had nothing but grit, faith, and bitter herbs passed down through generations. That was when Tobi's real fight began. His uncles were unable to help. They had their own families to feed with the little resources they could get. Like every young boy, he wanted to be normal. He wanted to play football with the neighborhood boys. The whistle was made of a bottle cap, the goalposts, worn-out slippers. "Tobi, you sure you want play?" one of the boys asked, squinting under the midday sun. Tobi nodded, tying his sandals with shaky fingers. His mother had warned him that morning, not today, not with that cough, but he was tired of watching life from the sidelines. "I'm fine," he lied, forcing a grin. The game began fast. Dust kicked up, boys shouted. The ball was wild, bouncing off bare legs and echoing through the open field. Tobi ran. Once, twice. On the third sprint, something shifted. A sharp pain pierced his chest. His lungs began to burn, as if someone had lit a fire inside his ribs. "Pass!" someone screamed, but Tobi couldn't hear. The world was spinning now. His feet dragged. His throat closed. Then, collapse. A thud on the dry earth. "Tobi! Tobi!" The game stopped. Boys gathered, unsure. One poked his arm. No response. "He's not breathing," his younger brother cried, voice cracking with panic. One boy bolted toward the village. Another began to cry. The others backed away, afraid. Tobi lay still, eyes rolled up, dust clinging to his sweaty face. Within minutes, his grandmother came running barefoot, herbs already clutched in one fist, tears in the other. They wrapped him in towels soaked in hot water, rubbed his chest with palm oil, pried his mouth open for bitter herbs. "Breathe, Tobiloba, please breathe," his mother begged in Yoruba dialect, rocking him in her lap. Finally, after minutes that felt like hours, a gasp. Tobi coughed violently, and the village exhaled. He lived. But something inside him shifted that day. From then on, he knew. This body was fragile, but the dream must be stronger. He survived, but the embarrassment lingered longer than the pain. Another time, he followed older boys into the forest to hunt squirrels. He wanted to prove he wasn't weak. They climbed trees, leapt across rocks. But by evening, Tobi's body gave out. He returned home with a high fever and bloodied knees. He was bedridden for a week. And then there was the mango incident, a memory etched in shame. It was 2006, just a few months after the death of his father. His classmates dared him to join them in picking mangoes from the orchard of a notoriously hostile man. They needed one more person to scale the shorter tree. Tobi said yes. He was desperate to belong. The mangoes were almost within reach. "Just climb that one, Tobi," one boy whispered. "You're the lightest." Tobi hesitated. He looked over the tall fence at the lonely orchard. Everyone knew about the old man who owned it, a man with a cane and no mercy. But Tobi needed this. He needed to prove he wasn't the weak one. Not today. He climbed. The branch creaked. He tossed 3 ripe mangoes down. Laughter, cheers. Then, a crack in the bushes. "He's coming," someone yelled. Chaos erupted. Shirts full of mangoes, boys scrambling in all directions. But Tobi didn't run. His vision blurred. His chest tightened. The air disappeared. Thud. He hit the ground. Lying still, dirt on his lips, the world spun around him in silence. The old man stormed into the clearing, cane raised high, then stopped. Tobi wasn't moving. "Ah, Jesus," the man muttered, lowering the cane. "This one go die here?" Tobi was later taken home. His mother wept, not because of the mangoes, but because she feared she would lose her son like she lost her husband. His mother, now a widow with 5 children and 2 stepchildren, became both shield and sword. She did laundry for people, sold pap at dawn, hawked vegetables at dusk, all to keep Tobi and the children in school and fed. Tobi's stepmother left behind her 2 kids after Mr. Oladele's burial. School was a battlefield for Tobi. He was often sent home because of his health, his teachers torn between concern and hopelessness. Yet, each time he returned, he performed better than the rest. He memorized faster, calculated quicker, and read like his life depended on it, because it did. "If I can't run, let me read. If I can't breathe freely, let me think freely," he once told a teacher. The herbs, bitter leaf, turmeric, ginger, garlic, and honey, kept him on his feet. They may not provide cure, but they strengthened him. Just enough to stay alive. Just enough to dream. This is the raw beginning of a legend. A boy with iron lungs, not because they were strong, but because they refused to fail him. This has been part 1 of Tobi Inspired. From African trenches to the American dream. If this story moved you, let us know in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe to Be the Millionaire Yourself, where we spotlight the grit behind greatness. Ready for more? Head over to our channel and watch part 2 of Tobi Inspired. Remember, the trenches don't bury you, they build you.